For 1900 years, we knew that 5,000 Roman soldiers were lost in Scotland. It was thought to be the greatest mystery in history. But recently, archaeologists have discovered something that has changed the whole story. And the truth is not good at all. Then, what was Rome really trying to hide? The mysteries and legends of the Ninth Legion. For more than 1,900 years, the fate of Rome's Ninth Legion has remained a profound and enduring historical mystery. A battle-hardened elite military force of over 5,000 highly trained soldiers roared into the misty highlands of ancient Scotland, and then they suddenly disappeared. There are no mass graves. There are no reports of casualties on the battlefield. There is no record of their surrender, and no evidence of any survivors. But what makes the disappearance of the Ninth Legion so terrifying is not just their disappearance. This chilling realization that the Roman Empire, a civilization unusually obsessed with preserving history, glory, and military lineage, they made a very conscious and extraordinary effort to show that the Ninth Legion never existed. This is not just the story of a lost army. This is a story of a massive imperialist cover-up. To understand the enormity of this disappearance, you have to understand who these people were. The Ninth Spanish Legion, formed in the brutal fires of the Civil War, was both a legend and a war machine. They fought under Julius Caesar himself in the desperate battles of the GYC. These were not inexperienced rookies or reluctant conscripts. They were an elite raiding troop, renowned for their strict discipline and unparalleled physical endurance. For nearly 2 centuries, the Ninth Legion was the sharp and violent vanguard of the Roman Empire's expansion campaigns and records in Britain. They suppressed a terrible rebellion in Spain. They defended the formidable Rhine frontier from German attacks. They carried out surprise raids across Britain under Emperor Claudius, and they played a key role in suppressing Queen Buda's massive rebellion. Time and again, the Ninth Corps has been sent wherever the empire has needed swift and decisive action. By the early 2nd century AD, they were stationed at the cold and windy Eboracum Castle, modern York, in northern England. Eboracum in Britannia was Rome's ultimate military base, a fortress built of stone, granaries, and temples. It was a symbol of absolute imperial power. But just north of those walls lay Colonia, which is today Scotland. It was a wild, lawless region, filled with dense forests, rugged uplands, and dangerous swamps. It was home to fiercely independent tribal groups who completely refused to bow to Rome. The terrain provided perfect cover for ambushes and guerrilla warfare. Roman patrols that penetrated deep into the Caledonian Plain often never returned. In 108 AD, we have irrefutable evidence carved in stone that the Ninth Legion was alive, active, and rebuilding the fortress of Eboracum. A stone tablet inscribed with the official name and title of the legion was discovered in the ruins of York. Archaeological progress in the Netherlands. They suppressed a terrible rebellion in Spain. They defended the formidable Rhine frontier from German attacks. They carried out surprise raids across Britain under Emperor Claudius, and they played a key role in suppressing Queen Buda's massive rebellion. Time and again, the Ninth Corps has been sent wherever the empire has needed swift and decisive action. By the early 2nd century AD, they were stationed at the cold and windy Eboracum Castle, modern York, in northern England. Eboracum in Britannia was Rome's ultimate military base, a fortress built of stone, granaries, and temples. It was a symbol of absolute imperial power. But just north of those walls lay Colonia, which is today Scotland. It was a wild, lawless region, filled with dense forests, rugged uplands, and dangerous swamps. It was home to fiercely independent tribal groups who completely refused to bow to Rome. The terrain provided perfect cover for ambushes and guerrilla warfare. Roman patrols that penetrated deep into the Caledonian Plain often never returned. In 108 AD, we have irrefutable evidence carved in stone that the 9th Legion was alive, active, and rebuilding the fortress of Eboracum. A stone tablet inscribed with the official name and title of the legion was discovered in the ruins of York. There is only one big problem with this legend. Modern science and archaeology have finally proven it to be almost completely wrong. The mystery of the missing 9th Legion has finally been solved. And this irrefutable truth is not buried in the frozen moors of Scotland. It was hidden hundreds of miles away on the European mainland. This groundbreaking discovery occurred when researchers began excavating an ancient Roman fort called Noviogus, located in the modern city of Nen, Netherlands. Deep in the ground, they found rows of ancient burnt clay roof tiles. After removing the soil, the archaeologists looked at the government military stamps firmly embedded in the clay. The stamps read LEG 9H, meaning 9th Spanish Legion. But it wasn't just the name that shattered the Scottish legend. The date was also to blame. Using specific archaeological dating methods, researchers have confirmed that these tiles were made between 120 and 130 AD. According to the old theory, this was mathematically impossible. A decade after its alleged annihilation in Scotland, the 9th Legion could not have been producing military roof tiles in the Netherlands. Dead men don't build castles. The evidence doesn't end there. Archaeologists at Namem also discovered a bronze locket from the 9th Legion, strengthening their physical presence on the European continent long after their so-called disappearance, final destruction in the East. But this does not explain the ultimate mystery. If they survived in Britain and migrated to the Netherlands, why did their names disappear completely from all Roman records just a few decades later? What really destroyed the 9th Legion? The answer lies in the East. In the 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire faced two devastating military crises in its eastern provinces. In 132 AD, the brutal and bloody Bar Kokhba rebellion took place. And in 161 AD, a major war began against the mighty Parthian Empire. These eastern conflicts were not minor skirmishes. They were devastating and arduous campaigns. Roman historical documents from these wars recount unprecedented and horrific casualties. The Roman historian Franto noted that the losses in these eastern conflicts were so terrible that the Emperor Hadrian, writing to the Senate, the customary opening line, "If you and your children are healthy, then good, and so are I and my army," has been intentionally omitted. The legions were being systematically disbanded because they were not healthy. Modern military historians now firmly believe that the 9th Legion was removed from its position in the Netherlands and deployed to the Middle East to fight in one of these two devastating wars. There, under the scorching eastern sun, thousands of miles from the Scottish highlands, the 9th Legion finally met its worthy opponent. They suffered a terrible, miserable defeat. Origin and rise of Legio IX Hispana. Legio IX Hispana did not begin as a myth. Its origins are inextricably linked to the blood and ambition of Julius Caesar, who in 58 BC raised the 9th Legion to lead the conquest of Gaul. Caesar's own handwriting records that this legion was at the heart of his campaigns, crossing rivers, assaulting enemy walls, and earning its marks in the forests and mud of the north. The first real test of the legion came not in Britain, but in the remote mountainous regions of Hispania, Spain, where the Cantabrian and Asturian wars had been raging for decades. Caesar's successor, Augustus, sent the 9th Regiment to crush the last bastions of Iberian resistance. In that mountainous region, the 9th Regiment earned the nickname Hispania, a symbol of their perseverance in the face of great hardship. At the beginning of the 1st century AD, the 9th Legion was not an inexperienced troop. It was a seasoned fighting machine. Its ranks included men who had buried their comrades in various places, from the banks of the Rhine to the sun-baked valleys of Hispania. Inscriptions from Terra Conensis confirm their presence. Mythological century, the lost in the mist. Theory: silence can also be a weapon. In the case of the Legio IX Hispana, the silence after York became a blank canvas for fear, pride, and legend. The 19th century gave this emptiness a story, and the world believed it. In 1866, the German historian Theodor Mommsen first argued that the 9th Legion was annihilated in the inaccessible areas outside Hadrian's Wall. There are no bodies, no graves, no living people, only the story of a disappearance written on the blank lines of Roman documents. Victorian scholars, searching for stories of the failures of great men, seized on this theory. They filled in the blanks with a scenario of a cursed journey through the Scottish mists, of an army engulfed in the darkness of the highlands. The media followed suit. The Times and the Illustrated London News headlined the end of the Ninth War as a national tragedy for Rome, and it was portrayed as a warning to any empire daring to venture into the remote regions of the north. The myth became larger than reality. By the early 20th century, the story had become an irrefutable fact. It was repeated in school textbooks and popular history books. The Ninth Army was lost to the last soldier, its eagle flag shattered under the feet of the barbarians. This legend found its most powerful form in Rosemary Sutcliffe's 1954 novel, The Eagle of the Ninth. New evidence, survival, and the discovery of Nijmegen. Buried beneath a layer of legend and anecdote, the real story awaited in the darkness. Nijmegen. The name is almost unheard of in the shadow of Rome's terrible disasters. But here, in the damp soil of the Lower Rhine, the 9th Legion left a mark that is not easily erased. The excavation report by a Dutch team in 2000 changed everything. Not rumor, not legend, but material evidence. Rows of terra sigillata roof tiles, each with a single, clearly marked mark, Leg IX Hispania. This postage stamp is not a sign of a British expedition. Based on the stratigraphy, these tiles are dated to the early 120s AD, which was sealed beneath a layer of Samian pottery and a hoard of silver denarii made between 122 and 126 AD. The sequence of ceramics, the typing of coins, even the mineral composition of the clay, all point to a period of production after the so-called Scottish devastation. Then comes the pendant. A bronze disc, numbered NM 2022.089, was discovered in a domestic pit next to the tile vault. Its inscription, Leg IX Hisp, carved by the rough hand of a soldier, has survived for centuries. This is not the remains of a lost army. It is the mark of a unit that is alive and active on the banks of the Rhine. Final extinction, reinstatement. Skeptics have long challenged the story of the disappearance of the 9th Legion. Some claim that the Legion's number was changed and its soldiers were incorporated into other units to cover up its silent demise. Others say it existed only on paper. A virtual army kept alive on the payroll, its soldiers disappearing into distant outposts. There is even an argument that only a small group called the Vexillatio reached Nijmegen, and the main force was lost in Britain. But these theories collapse in the face of irrefutable evidence. The Nijmegen imprinted tiles, which have been precisely dated to between 122 and 126 AD through coinage and stratigraphy, It points to a real and active presence, not some later homage or recycled material. The bronze locket marked Leg IX Hisp is a living symbol, not a memorial. After 108, traces of the legion disappeared from York, and a decade later it reappeared on the banks of the Rhine. Neither renumbering nor attrition explain such direct and datable changes. What follows is not silent survival, but a bureaucratic extinction. The mystery of the extinct Ninth Legion. Nearly 2,000 years ago, one of Rome's most powerful military units, the legendary Ninth Legion, disappeared without a trace. More than 5,000 highly trained soldiers went missing, with no bodies, no documents, or clear explanations. Were they killed in a brutal ambush in Scotland, or was their fate hidden by Rome itself? Modern discoveries are challenging old legends and uncovering clues that will rewrite history. So, what really happened to the Ninth Legion? The fate of the Ninth Legion of Rome. For centuries, the disappearance of Rome's Ninth Legion has been one of the most intriguing mysteries of ancient history. This elite Roman military unit, known as the Legio IX Hispana, gained a reputation for discipline, strength, and success across multiple provinces of the Roman Empire. It fought in the major campaigns in Gaul under Julius Caesar, helped consolidate Roman control in Spain, defended the Rhine frontier, and it later played a role in the Roman conquest of Britain. By the early 2nd century AD, the legion was stationed at Iberacum, modern York, which served as a major Roman military base in northern Britain. The legend of the Scottish ambush and Hadrian's Wall. The popular story suggests that the Ninth Legion entered the dangerous northern region of Caledonia in present-day Scotland and was completely destroyed around 117 AD. According to this legend, thousands of Roman soldiers disappeared without leaving any evidence of the battlefield, mass graves, or any official reports of the defeat. Since Rome was very well organized and meticulous in document preservation, the sudden disappearance of an entire army led to speculation that the empire had deliberately erased it from history to cover up a humiliating military defeat. The construction of Hadrian's Wall further popularized this idea. Many historians believed that the wall was a symbol of Rome's fear after the loss of the Ninth Legion, marking their retreat from aggressive expansion into Britain. For a long time, the story of a brutal Scottish ambush was accepted as the most dramatic explanation for the fate of the army. Modern archaeology. Evidence from outside Britain. However, modern archaeological discoveries and historical research have challenged this theory. Evidence found outside Britain suggests that the Ninth Legion remained active after its supposed destruction. For example, clay roof tiles with engraved names of legions have been discovered in Nijmegen, Netherlands, dating to approximately 120 to 130 AD. This proves that the legion was not wiped out in Scotland and remained active on the European continent for many years. True destiny, transfer, and the Eastern Front. An example of this is a senior general who served as governor in Arabia decades after the legion's supposed disappearance. This indicates that both the soldiers and the leadership of the Ninth Legion remained active within the Roman military system long after the alleged massacre. Based on this evidence, historians now believe that the Ninth Legion was not destroyed in Scotland, but rather was relocated from Britain to other border regions of the Roman Empire. This reorganization probably placed them along the Rhine region and later in the eastern provinces, where Rome was engaged in intense military conflict. During this period, the empire faced several devastating wars, including the Bar Kokhba revolt and the conflict with the Parthian Empire, both of which caused heavy losses for the Romans. It is widely believed that the Ninth Legion was ultimately destroyed during one of these eastern campaigns. Unlike famous victories, Roman military disasters often received little public attention. In some cases, when a legion was completely destroyed, its name and number were quietly withdrawn to preserve the image of Roman strength and stability. In conclusion, the story of the Ninth Legion is not a story of a mysterious disappearance in the Scottish Highlands, but rather a complex journey through the changing military needs of the Roman Empire. Modern evidence suggests that the legion survived long after its period in Britain, was redeployed to other border areas, and eventually became extinct in the East. What remains is not just a story of mystery, but a reflection of how empires manage war, loss, and historical memory. Conclusion. But why it's not good? This not good aspect refers to the activities of the 5,500-member elite unit in its final decades, which were at best inefficient and at worst disastrous. The erasure of their names from official documents and their absence from later Roman lists indicates a huge failure, which were probably covered up or considered so shameful that the empire tried to forget them.